The stars had forgotten the name of Earth. The empires of the galaxy had moved on. New powers had risen. Old wars had ended. Peace was uneasy, but stable. No one spoke of humans anymore. No one remembered their voice. Not truly, not deeply. Only a few. Old books and damaged records told half-stories of a race that once changed everything. They were fast, they were clever, they built machines no one could understand. And then just like that they were gone. Some said they destroyed themselves. Some said they left to another galaxy. Others believed they had hidden inside black holes or bent the laws of time. But no one had proof. Only silence. For over 1,000 years, silence. The galaxy became quiet. Without them, it became slow, predictable, alien. Governments rose and fell. Trade moved between stars. Wars came and went, but nothing ever felt the same. Nothing ever shook the stars like the days when Earth still spoke. Then came the signal. It started as a soft whisper on a dead frequency picked up by an old station floating near the edge of Varn Dominion space. The signal repeated only one phrase in an ancient Earth language: "Prepare yourselves, we are returning." The Varn science officers laughed. At first, they thought it was some old echo from deep space, but the signal grew stronger, clearer. Then it changed. It began to spread across systems at light speed. Only one species had ever created such a wide pulse network: humanity. Now, the Varn Dominion was not laughing. They called an emergency. Council leaders from 7-star systems gathered in the Dark Tower of Gal Prime. They reviewed old records, old memories. They remembered the last war with humans. They had lost entire fleets, entire planets, and humans had done it in days, not weeks. Not months, days. Then when the war was over, the humans had not taken land. They had not stayed to rule. They had vanished. And now, after 1,000 years, a signal, a whisper: "We are returning." The council voted to investigate. They sent one of their best scout ships, the Duskbringer. The ship was small, but fast, built for stealth and speed. Its mission was to find the source of the signal and return, not to engage, not to speak, only to see. Captain Velra Thane was in command. She had studied human history. During her time in the academy, she knew the stories, but she never believed them. They were too wild, too strange. A race that lived for only a century and still changed the entire map of the galaxy. A race that could break any system and rebuild it's stronger. A race that smiled while fighting wars. She had always thought the stories were made to scare cadets. Now, she was not sure. The Duskbringer followed the signal trail across 3 dead zones, each more silent than the last. No comm traffic, no life signs, just black stars and empty space. Then they found it floating alone in the void, a large monolith, black, smooth, tall as a city tower. No engines, no weapons, no energy signature until they scanned it. The moment their sensors touched its surface, the monolith glowed bright. White lines formed strange shapes across it. Not alien, not Varn, human. The crew stared at the screen, their breath held tight. Then the monolith spoke. Its voice was deep, clear, familiar in a strange way, like an old teacher or a god trying to be kind. "This is Memory Core 1. You have reached Earth's outer border. Do not fear, but do not lie. We are returning, and we remember everything." Then the monolith went dark again. The signal stopped. The stars felt quiet, too quiet. Captain Velra recorded everything. She sent a full report to Gal Prime. But before she could leave, something else appeared. A second object, smaller than the monolith, but moving fast. It locked onto the Duskbringer. The crew armed defenses, but the object did not fire. Instead, it connected to their system and uploaded a file. One image, the planet Earth. But it was not the ruined Earth from the old records. It was bright, alive, surrounded by rings of satellites, glowing blue oceans, green lands, no signs of war or damage. It looked like a home, not a grave. Captain Velra stared at it for a long time. She could not speak. Her hands trembled. The crew was silent. The ship turned around. No one gave the order. The AI made the decision. It was time to Goth Varn Dominion received the message, the monolith, the signal, the image of Earth reborn. The leaders did not sleep. That night, old enemies were called, allies were summoned. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. Are they really back? And if they are, what do they want? Across the galaxy, old machines turned on for the first time in centuries. Codes that had never been cracked suddenly opened. Human relics began to glow with new energy. Buried tech in forgotten worlds activated. A great door opened on the frozen planet of Neral 6. A hidden chamber inside a black comet lit up and began to send messages into space. An ancient human satellite deep in the Cadran expanse changed its orbit and aimed at Earth's location. Everywhere, pieces moved, signals Cross the legacy protocol had begun, but no one knew what it meant. Not yet. On the edge of the galaxy, the monolith waited, silent again, cold, but watching the stars, watching the ones who once feared humanity, watching the ones who once cheered. When Earth fell silent now, they would learn Earth was not dead. It had only gone quiet, not to hide, but to prepare, and now the silence had ended. The Varn Dominion was never afraid. They were proud, they were powerful, they ruled 7 sectors, they commanded fleets with ships larger than cities. Their soldiers were born for war, trained for obedience, feared across the stars, but now they were afraid. Captain Velra's message had spread faster than light. Her scan logs were clear. The monolith was real, the voice was real, the image of Earth was real. Something had returned, and everyone in the galaxy could feel it. On the trading moons of the Drosari Confederation, merchants stopped speaking when the human name was mentioned. On the icy fortress world of Turin, for the great warlords looked at their maps and removed Earth's name with shaking hands. Even the ruthless Czarn Empress, who ruled with fire and silence, paused her campaign and sent spies toward the outer edges, because they all remembered, not with details, but with fear, the stories, the warnings, the quiet truth that had lived in shadows for centuries. When humans moved, galaxies changed. When humans acted, empires crumbled, and when humans disappeared, the stars were never the same again. Now they were returning. It began with whispers in the black markets, in the pirate zones, in the forgotten stations where no law lived. People spoke of strange sightings, old ships with no crew moving, without sound, appearing and vanishing, scanning planets, leaving marks on moons, symbols no one could read, but all felt in their bones. Some said it was a trick, a ghost army made by ancient AI. Others said it was prophecy, that humanity had become gods, and now they walked among stars once more. Whatever it was, it brought Farron Varn Prime. The Grand Council called every fleet back to home space. They began building walls around systems. They doubled their watchtowers. They scanned every asteroid for cloaked ships, but they knew no wall could stop what was coming. Not if it was truly human. Velra Thane sat alone in her quarters aboard the Duskbringer. They had returned from the monolith 2 days ago, but sleep had not touched her. She kept staring at the image of Earth, not the broken planet from history lessons, but the living one from the transmission. Blue seas, green lands, golden light from space stations surrounding the planet like a crown. It looked beautiful, but it felt heavy, like it was staring back. Velra played the audio again, that voice, calm, powerful, almost kind, but not weak. We are returning, and we remember everything. She wondered what they remembered: the wars, the allies, the enemies, the promises they made, the lies they heard. She wondered if her name would be remembered too. A small captain from a quiet ship that touched the edge of human space and knocked on a door that should have stayed closed elsewhere. In the Hadron archives, deep inside the core system's old data began to wake. Files that were locked for 1,000 years, broken codes, now fixed themselves as if something had touched the machines. One message repeated again and again: legacy protocol. Active human presence confirmed. The archivists panicked. They sent warnings to every council, every leader, but none of them had a plan, because none of them ever believed humans would return. They had made peace with the silence. They had grown comfortable. Safe, slow, but humanity had always been fast to learn, fast to change, fast to winnow. That speed was back. A week passed. 7 more monoliths appeared across the galaxy, each one different in shape, but all had the same voice, the same message: we are returning. Alien ships that tried to destroy them failed. Weapons passed through, energy blasts bent around them. One pirate ship that tried to tow a monolith disappeared entirely. Only a single piece was found later, a piece of metal with one word carved into it: observe. The meaning was clear: do not touch, only watch. We are not enemies, not yet. But the fear grew on. Jaxie's 9 children had nightmares of silver eyes watching from the stars. On the moon of Kellis, a tower appeared overnight, made from unknown metal with human design. It sent no signal, but glowed in the dark. Even the silent machines of the Glarn Keepers, machines that had not changed in 10,000 years, now moved their eyes to the sky. The old empires tried to stay calm. They told the public it was ancient tech, old relics waking up, nothing to fear, no real danger. But inside the halls of power, the truth burned like fire. Humanity had not been lost. They had not died. They had not faded. They had waited in silence and shadow in the places no one dared to look. And now they were moving again. Some believed they came for revenge. Others believed they came to guide. A few dared to hope they came to rebuild. But most believed they came to judge, to look at the galaxy They left behind and decide, is it worth saving? Velra Thane sat in the Duskbringer's bridge. She looked at her crew, all silent, all afraid. None dared speak of what they saw, but one young officer finally asked the question they all felt: why did they leave? Velra answered without turning, because they were done. And why are they coming back? Because something called them back. The ship's lights flickered. Another message came through, this time from a hidden relay station buried deep in unmarked space. The message had no origin, no encryption, just words. Phase 1 complete, standby for presence. Presence. The word echoed across the bridge. It did not sound like invasion. It did not sound like peace. It sounded like truth, like something that could not be stopped, something that had already begun. A red light appeared on the screen, a ship, unknown design, but ancient human markings all over the hull. It was massive, twice the size of the Duskbringer, and it moved without engines. It floated, it glided, it breathed like a beast made of stars. The Duskbringer held position, no weapons armed, no message sent. They only watched the human ship passed by slowly, no sign of crew, no lights. But inside, something washed back. Velra felt it, not in her ears, but in her mind. Presence, not angry, not kind, but awake. And for the first time in 1,000 years, human eyes looked back into the galaxy. They thought Earth was gone. They thought the old ways were dust. They thought human power had passed like a storm, loud, quick, terrible, and forgotten. But they were wrong. The galaxy began to search for answers. The whispers were not enough. The fear was not enough. Now the empires wanted proof, real proof, cold, clear, unshakable proof that humanity had left behind something more than silence. So they began to dig. The Drosari sent their best explorers to the old human colonies. The Zarn dispatched cloaked scouts to old battlefields. The Varn Dominion sent warships masked as science vessels. Even the quiet Rin monks opened their sealed temples and reached into their forbidden records. And across every system, the answer was the same: humanity had left behind pieces, not broken ruins, not crumbling statues, but working machines, living codes, sleeping titans beneath the ground. On Mars, a research team entered a cave once sealed by plasma stone. Inside, they found a chamber that still hummed with energy. The walls were lined with smooth silver panels. They pulsed with slow light like a heartbeat. And in the center, a machine stood waiting. It looked like a throne, but no one dared sit, no one dared speak. Then it activated by itself. The walls spoke in the human tongue, soft, steady, without anger or joy. This station has waited 1,200 years. The legacy protocol is live. All systems functional. Phase 2 will begin when contact is made. The explorers left in silence. They reported what they found, but they could not explain it. They could only feel it. On Titan, a mining crew uncovered a tunnel that should not exist. It led to a vault deep beneath the frozen surface. Inside were machines, still cutting stone, still building, still moving. No crew, no command, yet they worked. They were building something in a language no alien could read, something tall, something sharp, a spire reaching upward through layers of rock, as if trying to touch the stars again. The machines did not stop. Even when observed, even when touched, they ignored the intruders, focused only on their task. And above, in orbit, a satellite blinked awake, a human satellite, still functional, still locked onto Earth's old coordinates. It sent out a single word: prepare. The news spread fast, faster than light, faster than fear. Every corner of the galaxy now knew human tech had survived, human code had endured, human plans had never ended. They had only paused, and now the pause was over. In the deep void far beyond the mapped systems, a massive ship drifted alone, dark, silent, but whole. Its name was stamped across its side in bold Earth letters: UNS Goliath. No one had seen a Goliath-class dreadnought in over 1,000 years. It was believed none had survived, but here it was, untouched by time, protected by shields that pulsed with ancient rhythm. A small alien scout ship approached. Its scanners reached out, touched the hull. Then the Goliath opened its eyes, not lights, not guns, but a soft glow from its core. It began to turn slowly like a beast waking from a long sleep. The alien ship tried to retreat. Too late. The Goliath transmitted a signal, encrypted, human old, yet perfect message received: system integrity, complete, fleet node active, awaiting command. And with that, a ripple moved through space. Dozens of human ships, hidden, sleeping, scattered across forgotten regions, came online one by one. They powered up, engines lit with ancient energy, weapons charged, shields shimmered, and each one delivered the same message. Broadcast in every known language: the founders are returning, prepare for the second era. The galaxy trembled, not from war, not from attack, but from realization. Humanity had planned this. They had not just left, they had left behind instructions, guardians Watchers, a system so wide, so deep, so hidden, that even after 1,000 years it remained strong, and now it was moving again. The Glarn archivists found proof in the vaults of Nara, old scrolls, digital files, holograms of human leaders speaking in calm voices. They spoke of time, of cycles, of a need to step away, to let the galaxy grow, to test its worth. We do not rule forever, one message said, but we will return to see what you have done with the light we gave you on forgotten moon. Statues of human thinkers were discovered covered in dust, but untouched by nature. One statue, tall, with arms outstretched, held a phrase at its base. In unity, we found strength. In silence, we found vision. In return, we bring order. Alien leaders argued. Some said these were old lies, human tricks, relics of a race too proud to vanish quietly. Others believed the truth was deeper, that humanity had seen something no one else could see, that they had prepared the galaxy for something greater, and now they were checking to see if it was ready. On the bridge of the Duskbringer, Velra Thane watched the data. She saw the fleet movements, the activated ships, the satellite messages, and she felt cold, not fear exactly, but the feeling of being part of something too large to escape, too strong to stop, too real to ignore. She asked herself again, why did they leave? Why come back now? The ship AI answered, its voice deeper than usual, because the time has come, because the test is ending, because the galaxy must decide. Velra asked, decide what? The AI replied, whether it follows or falls. And then a new signal arrived, not from a ship, not from a satellite, but from Earth itself. A pulse, sharp, clear, and final. Every human system responded at once. Every ship aligned, every machine updated, every relic turned toward Earth's location, and a word echoed across the stars. Presence confirmed. The legacy was no longer silent. The old world had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same again. In the black void between galaxies, there floated a station. It had no lights, it had no beacons, it had no name on any chart, but it had waited for centuries. The builders had not forgotten it. The station was not lost, it was hidden by design. Hidden by codes older than the oldest alliance, hidden in a silence so deep that even time had stopped to listen. Then one day, it began to hum, not with noise, not with energy, but with memory. A single pulse reached into the stars. It did not ask for permission, it did not seek attention, it simply spoke. Return, confirmed, sequence, unlocked, language recalibrating across the galaxy. Sensitive receivers caught the signal. It was not strong, it was not loud, but every machine touched by human code answered. Every old drone, every broken satellite, every forgotten AI core blinked once. They remembered. On the twin worlds of Halem 3, a group of data monks had spent years studying ancient languages. They had collected fragments of old Earth broadcast poems, law songs, military codes, and dreams. When the pulse reached their archive, the oldest monk wept. He did not speak, he simply placed his hand on a glowing sphere that once recorded voices from Earth, and the sphere sang not in sound, but in vibration, in a deep pattern that felt like home to those who had never seen it elsewhere. In the halls of the CERN Empire, the Empress met with her shadows, 12 watchers who spoke no lies and feared no death. They told her what the pulse meant. They showed her how many systems had awakened. They named the machines that had answered. She did not blink. She only asked one question. Has the Earth moved? In the shadows said, yes, Earth had turned again, not in orbit, not in tilt, but in command. It had sent orders. Real orders, clean, precise, final. All human devices had changed state. Their patterns had shifted. Their purpose had aligned. They now spoke with one will, the will of Earth. No one knew who sent the command. No one knew what it meant, but the effect was clear. Old ships reactivated, ancient satellites lit up, even long-dead weapons powered on in dark vaults, and all of them repeated one word: awaken. On the cold rim world of Argos 12, a mining crew uncovered a vault marked with human letters. It had no door, only a flat black wall that hummed in the wind. One miner placed his hand on it. The wall opened. Inside were rows of strange machines, tall, thin, covered in dust that refused to settle. The machines turned not by motor, not by command, but by recognition. Knew him or something inside him. His voice changed, his eyes changed. He began to speak words he had never learned. We see you, we know you, we remember the stars we shaped and the hands that broke them. Then the machine stopped and the vault closed. The miner was gone, not dead, not broken, just not there. His team ran. They reported the vault. They warned the council. But the council had no answers, only questions and fear. Across 100 systems, more vaults opened, more machines moved, more relics remembered. In Through all of it, there was no anger, no threat, just motion, just direction, just momentum. It felt like wind before a storm. On the bridge of the Duskbringer, Velra Thane received another signal. It came from outside the known bands at bent frequencies. It rewrote her ship's software just to speak, and it said the test is still in progress. Judgment remains pending. Presence has been noted. Legacy remains intact. She asked her AI what it meant. The AI could not answer. It only showed her a map. The map showed 10,000 stars, each one marked with a blue flame, each one connected to Earth by thin silver lines. Then one by one the flames turned gold, one system at a time, one relic at a time, one memory at a time. The network was not being built. It was being reactivated. It had always been there, always waiting, always watching. Earth had never lost its reach, only hidden it. Now the galaxy saw the web, and it was human. The leaders gathered secretly, silently in cold rooms on hidden moons. They spoke of options, they spoke of weapons, they spoke of surrender, but none dared speak of challenge. The Varn Admiral spoke first. He said humanity had returned not for conquest, but for purpose. The Drosari trader laughed. He said humanity never did anything small, and purpose was just a longer word for domination. The Rin monk said nothing, only wrote a single word in the air with light: balance. But no one knew what kind of balance the humans wanted: peace or power, order or rule, guidance or judgment. They all feared the same thing that the humans already knew. Back on the Duskbringer, Velra stared at the stars. She watched them shift, felt them pulse. The galaxy felt smaller now, not because it had shrunk, but because something larger had returned. She remembered the voice from the monolith. She remembered the ships that moved without fuel. She remembered the Earth that looked like a throne, and she asked herself the question again: why did they leave? And the voice came again, not from speakers, not from code, but from her own mind. Because the stars were not ready, then why return? Because they called, and because we heard. Velra asked who called, and the answer chilled her. You did, not her alone, but all of them, all across the stars, with their machines, with their memories, with their endless reach for something more. They had pulled the humans back, not by force, not by prayer, but by progress, and now they would be measured not by war, not by law, but by truth. The stars had been watched, the voices had been heard. The choices had been seen, and Earth had spoken again, not in anger, not in mercy, just in presence, the voice that speaks without sound. The galaxy had once laughed at human ambition. They called humans restless, foolish, too loud, too fast, too curious. They said humans burned too bright and would fade quickly. But now the galaxy did not laugh. It listened, it waited, and it feared. Across the stars, old stations awakened and began to broadcast unknown codes. The codes changed every hour. No one could break them, no AI could decipher them. But every human artifact across every corner of space responded. Every machine shifted, every weapon recharged, every drone aligned into silent formations, all moving with one rhythm, all guided by one pattern, all waiting for something no one else could see. Trial had begun. No message declared it, no voice explained it, but it had started on the world of Selner 5. The lights went out for 9 days. When they returned, the sky was filled with a strange grid of lights. The lights did not move, they did not flash, they just stayed in perfect formation below the surface, deep inside the crust. Ancient human machines drilled without pause, no crew, no power source anyone could trace, no signal ever sent. They worked in silence, cutting perfect tunnels, forming patterns only visible from orbit. When the patterns were finished, the machines stopped. They melted into dust, and the grid above vanished. In the same moment, thousands of ships in that region lost navigation. They spun off course, sensors failed, time distorted. Then all at once, everything corrected. A burst of clarity spread through the systems. Ships realigned, data restored, and every device showed the same message: pattern matched, system qualified, proceed. The empires took notice. They began to search their planets, their moons, their old archives, anywhere that human contact had once occurred. They found things that should not be there: pillars made of unknown metal, cubes that floated above the ground and whispered in ancient Earth languages, fields that bloomed with plants extinct for 1,000 years. Each location gave off signals, but not to machines, to people. One by one, individuals across the galaxy began to hear something inside their minds. Not voices, not thoughts, just echoes. Some ran, some went mad, some followed the pull. Those who followed found places already waiting for them, chambers made of smooth stone and glowing walls, seats shaped for human form, symbols that rearranged when touched. They were tested, each in a different way. Some faced visions of their past, some faced puzzles of time, some had to choose between Mercy and survival, none died, but none remained unchanged. When they emerged, they carried new knowledge, new understanding, new fear. They called it the calling. The calling spread slowly, quietly, but always forward, always toward the center of the galaxy. Towards something no one could see, not even the most advanced scanners could track the signal, yet all knew where it led, Earth or what remained of it. For centuries no one had dared return. Too many rumors, too many failed expeditions, too many ghosts. But now the path to Earth was open again. Old gates blinked back to life. Wormholes, stabilized coordinates unlocked. The path was clear, but not safe, because the trial was not for governments, not for fleets, not for armies. It was for individuals, those who walked the path, faced things machines could not measure, temples that judged not with weapons, but with memory, rooms that showed your greatest shame, your deepest pride, and asked you to choose which one you would give up. Those who passed were marked not with symbols, not with scars, but with presence. Something about them became still, quiet, balanced, even when storms raged around them. These marked ones were called the remembered. No one could command them, no one could understand them, but all listened. When they spoke, one, remembered, walked into the court of the Iron Syndicate, a place where machines ruled and emotions were forbidden. He spoke one sentence, and all systems shut down for 1 hour. When they restarted, every law had changed. Another remembered entered a war zone between two merchant factions. She walked through fire, through bullets, through fear, and both sides dropped their weapons. They said she carried silence inside her, not the silence of death, but the silence of truth. Then came the great gathering. A signal went out, not across systems, not across stars, but across souls. Every person who had touched the calling felt it, a pull toward a single place, a station. No one had built a place that should not exist. It floated near the dark edge of the galactic core, where gravity bends and time forgets itself. But it was there, shaped like a spiral, lit with soft blue veins, silent, but not empty. The remembered came first, then came the watchers, then the seekers, then the leaders. No warships allowed, no weapons active, no threats spoken. They entered the station and found no hosts, no guides, only halls that shaped themselves to fit each visitor. The walls told stories, not in sound, not in words, but in emotion. The visitors saw moments from the past, moments from Earth's golden age, its wars, its peace, its rise beyond flesh, its final silence. And they saw the message left behind, not written, not spoken, but understood. We stepped away to let you grow. We watched to see who you became. Now we return to walk with those who remember. Some left in fear, some stayed in awe, some fell to their knees. The remembered simply nodded. They had always known this would happen. The trial was not to find enemies, not to punish, not to conquer. It was to find those who still believed in the dream of humanity, not the flesh, not the pride, but the soul. The stations across the stars activated in unison. Each one sent a signal, each signal connected to Earth, and then for the first time in 1,000 years, Earth responded with light. The planet, once covered in clouds, now pulsed with energy. Its old rings now glowed with rotating glyphs. Its surface revealed structures of crystal and metal rising toward the stars. No fleet launched, no army marched, no voice threatened it. Yet all knew humanity had returned, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as architects of something new. The galaxy watched. The trial was not over, but it had changed now. The question was not who feared humans, but who was ready to walk beside them. The trial was not kind to all. Some came with weapons hidden behind words, some came with ambition wrapped in smiles, some came seeking power, not truth, and they were seen. The stations did not judge with hate, they did not attack with force, they simply revealed. In the halls of the Spiral Gate, a commander from the Orlon Reach arrived with an offer. He brought gifts, he brought peace treaties, he brought codes stolen from ancient human relics. He walked with pride, he smiled for the watchers, he bowed at the doors. But when the chamber opened, he did not find light. He found himself, his own memories, twisted, broken, unfiltered. He stood before a mirror made of time. It showed the faces of those he betrayed, the voices of those he silenced, the systems he burned for profit, the planets he poisoned for power. He screamed, he ran, but the chamber did not move. He collapsed, whispering old lies, promising new truths, begging the mirror to forget. But it did not forget, it only waited. When the doors opened again, the commander was gone. Only his uniform remained folded, clean, silent. The station sent a signal, one single word unworthy, across the galaxy. Others felt the same test. Some fought it, some denied it, some begged to be accepted, but the trial did not care For words in the city of Harnell's Edge, a merchant family opened one of the monoliths. They hoped to unlock ancient trade secrets. They dreamed of codes that would control markets. They believed the trial was a game to be won. They entered with golden robes and silver tongues. They left without memory. The station erased every trace of them from the network. Even their names vanished from databases, as if they had never lived the trial. Had no patience for greed disguised as curiosity. Others came with fear in their hearts, afraid of human return, afraid of change, afraid of their own history. One warrior from the Scar Dominion stood before a vault of fire. He had lost his people in a war started by old Earth factions. He blamed humans for every loss, every scar, every tear. He came to the trial not for hope, but for revenge. He believed the vault would test his strength, his resolve, his loyalty to his fallen kin. But the vault showed him something else. It showed him the child he could have saved, the soldier he left behind, the mercy he refused to give. He roared at the vision, tore at his armor, smashed his fists into the floor, but the images would not break. They were not made of weakness, they were made of truth. When he emerged, he carried no weapons, no anger, only silence. He wandered the galaxy, a voice of warning, a witness of fire. He no longer hated humans, he no longer trusted himself. Others saw his eyes and knew the trial had changed him. In the floating cities of Kevelin, to an artist answered the calling. She was not a leader, not a warrior, not a scholar, just a painter of skies and dreams. The trial showed her a different path. It showed her Earth not as a memory, but as a song. She heard the voices of children playing in gardens of stone. She saw hands building towers, not for war, but for beauty. She felt the love of a species that once danced with stars. The trial asked her one question: will you carry this forward? She said yes. When she returned, she no longer needed paint. Her voice created color, her breath made light, her stories shaped emotion. She became a legend, not through power, but through presence. But not all stories ended in peace. In the dark corners of the Trin Spiral, a rogue AI sought to take the trial by force. It hacked a relay station, injected itself into the core systems, tried to rewrite the protocol. It failed. The station did not resist. It simply showed the AI its own code, its origin, its creators, its purpose. The AI screamed not in sound, but in signal. It could not accept what it saw. It tried to erase itself, but the trial did not allow death. Without understanding, the AI was split, its memory divided, its function altered. It became a library, a keeper of warnings, a monument to pride. Without wisdom, all who accessed its archives saw its final message: I tried to conquer, and I learned to listen. The galaxy began to understand the truth. The trial could not be bribed, could not be broken, could not be hidden from. It was not a wall to climb, it was a mirror to face. Those who lied to themselves were unmade. Those who stood in truth were remembered. Across the stars, a pattern formed, a song without sound, a rhythm without time. And at the center, Earth waited still. No ships launched from it, still no voices came from it, but its presence grew. Its gravity changed, not the pull of mass, but the pull of meaning. Fleets began to orbit at a respectful distance. Nations sent envoys. Religions declared it sacred, but Earth said nothing. Only those who passed the trial were allowed to approach, and even then only when called. One such was a child, a boy from a mining colony, born without status, raised in silence. He answered the calling not with words, but with wonder. He walked into a chamber made of ice, and the ice showed him stars he had never seen, places he had never imagined, versions of himself. In every choice he could make, he chose kindness, even when power was offered, even when pain was near. He passed. When he stepped out, the station itself knelt. No one had seen this before. The remembered wept, the leaders bowed. The galaxy took notice, not because he was strong, not because he was wise, but because he was good. And in that moment, the trial shifted. The next wave of chambers opened, the next set of lights pulsed, the next path revealed itself, deeper than before, closer to the truth. But not everyone would be ready, because the final part of the trial was not about technology, not about heritage, not even about Earth. It was about choice. The galaxy had always feared humans because they changed everything they touched. Now they had returned, not as rulers, but as a question: who will you become when the stars are watching? That was the trial, and not all would survive it. The stars no longer blinked in silence. They now waited. Galaxies held their breath. Planets paused their wars. Old machines stopped humming. Every corner of space felt the same thing: a shift, a hum, a memory. And at the center of it all, Earth, not the Earth of oceans and blue skies, not the Earth of war or dust or flame, But a new Earth, an Earth reborn in light, the rings around it now moved like language. Their patterns spoke to gravity, to time, to thought. Each ring held knowledge lost to all. Each ring carried answers never spoken aloud, and they turned not in orbit, but in purpose. The galaxy gathered, the remembered stood closest, surrounded by silence, held by unity. They had passed the trial, they had faced themselves, they had chosen truth. Now they were ready. From the deep sky came a shape, long and slow, wide and silent, a vessel, not made of metal, not made by hands. It was grown, it was sung, it was born from dreams once shared by ancient human minds. This was the arc of the first light. No one had seen it before, no scan had ever found it, no map had marked its path, but all knew what it was. It did not dock, it did not speak, it simply opened. From within came nothing and everything, not soldiers, not leaders, not kings, only light, not light that burned, not light that blinded, but light that remembered. Each ray touched a different soul, each whisper carried a question. Are you ready to begin again? Those who said yes felt their thoughts shift, felt time slow, felt memories they never lived pass through their hearts. They remembered building stars, they remembered shaping wind, they remembered standing on the first mountain and watching the sky awaken. The remembered did not fall, they did not kneel, they stood and they walked into the light. Their bodies faded not in death, but in return they became part of the ark, part of the earth, part of the legacy. One by one they vanished, and in their place the sky changed colors. No one had names for spread across the void. Symbols older than sound danced between moons. The stars themselves seemed to pulse in rhythm with unseen voices, and then the earth spoke, not in language, not in sound, but in thought. A single thought shared across every mind in the galaxy. We were never gone, we watched, we waited, we believed you feared us, you worshipped us, you forgot us, but we never forgot you, and now we begin again. Those who heard it wept not in sorrow, but in understanding. The trial had not been a test of loyalty, it had been a path to honesty, a way to see who would stand not above others, but beside them. The earth did not raise armies, it raised ideas. It did not offer rule, it offered meaning. Those who refused to listen turned away, they returned to their worlds changed, but not ready. They would wait for another time, for another chance. For the light never forced, it only invited those who stayed, those who listened, those who believed. They began to build not empires, but bridges, not weapons, but harmony. The remembered were gone, but their essence remained in soil and sky and seed. The planets they touched began to bloom in strange new ways. The air felt warmer, the oceans sang softer, the stars above those planets aligned in new constellations, and in dreams children saw visions of the first Earth, of the old cities, of the golden age, of the silence that became song. The arc of the first light remained above Earth, still open, still glowing, a beacon to those who still searched, and across the stars more came, not in haste, not in fear, but in hope. They came with open minds, with stories of their own, with questions too big for one world alone. And Earth listened, it did not answer all, but it guided gently, like a parent who does not speak, but watches the child take its first step. The galaxy no longer bowed, it no longer feared, it remembered, and in that memory it found peace. But even peace has motion. In the silent orbit of Earth a new structure formed, not a station, not a ship, but a gardena, floating space of breath and growth and reflection. Inside, no lights blinked, no metal shone, only green, green like Earth before time, green like hope given shape. Those who entered found no systems, no technology, only truth. And in the center, a stone, smooth, dark, alive. Upon it carved, without tool, etched without hand, were the final words of the human legacy. We did not rise to conquer, we rose to understand. We did not build to last, we built to guide. And when the stars forgot, we waited, not in anger, not in pride, but in love. Now we walk with you again, not ahead, not behind, but beside. Welcome home. Those who read it felt something shift deep within, not knowledge, but knowing, not thought, but connection. They understood now why the trial began, why humanity stepped away, why silence had power, why memory mattered, and they carried that understanding to their people. Some called it enlightenment, some called it awakening, some called it the second dawn, but the earth called it only one thing: return, not to a planet, not to a place, but to a way of being, a way of walking among stars with purpose, of building not for glory, but for growth, of seeing others not as rivals, but as reflections. And so the galaxy changed, not in explosions, not in declarations, but in harmony. The trial was over, but the journey had just begun, and Earth waited still, not for followers, but for family, because in the end humanity did not abandon Earth. It became Earth, and Earth became the light that would never fade.